Welcome to AmateurLogic.TV, episode 11. I'm Tommy.
And I'm Jim.
And I'm George. And we're glad you could join us today for the December 2006 episode of AmateurLogic.TV. We've got several things here to show you today and to talk about. I tell you, we're a little late this episode. It's been kind of busy.
Yeah, and we're also, as you can tell, doing something a little bit different for this episode. And that has a lot to do with the season and the amount of free time left to everyone at this time of the year.
A little geographic location challenge.
Yeah. Tommy is no different for him. A little bit different for me and George.
Yeah, it is. So we decided that we're just going to try doing a Skype show all the way around. Of course, hopefully, if all goes right in the editing, you're going to be looking at what was captured on the tapes, but we're communicating through Skype to do the show tonight.
Yeah, good old Skype comes through.
Let's get a couple of emails out of the way. We've had really a lot of emails back up here over the past few months, and there's no way we could read them all, but we do want to read a few of them.
Here's one from Mr. Laverne, we'll call him. Hey, I have some 450 volt amp APC UPS battery backups that I would like to put to use around the house. Those are a good thing to have. We have a lot of power outages on my block. Is there any reason I couldn't use a UPS for a small 40-watt lamp, cell phone charger, electric blanket, 125 watt, and or electric water pipe warmer to keep pipes from freezing? Well, Mr. Laverne, yes and no. The 40-watt lamp will work great. Probably the cell phone charger will be okay, but I don't know about the 125-watt electric blanket and the water pipe warmer. Those are going to draw a lot of current, and I don't believe I would try it. It's possible that one or the other could work, but I'd stick with just the 40-watt bulb and the cell phone charger. Tommy, you got any emails?
Yeah, I've got quite a few emails. I think I've had more this month than I have all the rest of them together. Let's start off here with one from Sean. It says, hey, Tommy, your segment on night shooting was great. I have a suggestion for another segment, and that's choosing a digital camera, whether it be point and shoot or SLR. I have a point and shoot. I'm looking to purchase an SLR. I want more control over exposure, focus, etc. Keep up the good work. Yeah, Sean, actually, that's the topic that I was going to do this month, and then we had a sudden weather change, and I decided to capitalize on it. So look for that in an upcoming month. Should be actually this coming month. I think we'll probably do that one.
I'm really looking forward to that. I'm interested in buying a new camera as well.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to that one, but I couldn't wait any longer. It's Christmas time, and I had to go ahead and buy my wife a camera. I hope she doesn't watch this before Christmas. Well, let me cover a couple here. It's one from our friend Leandro. I hope I pronounced that right. And he says, hi guys, I just wanted to say that you're doing a great job on these videos. I'm from Brazil, and your IPTV show is one that I see every month. Thank you, Leandro. It's people like you who keep us doing this every month. And one other real quick, this one comes from an amateur radio operator. It's Gary, and I believe he's in Australia. And he says, first, thank you and the guys for the Amateur Logic TV broadcast. I found out about your show from the Solder Smoke podcast. And he had a question. He was asking about our Cantina episodes and our testing, and he wanted to know what we were using for monitoring the signal. And Gary, what we were using is a program called NetStumbler. You can find it for multiple operating systems, I believe. And it's available at www.netstumbler.org. Jim?
That's right. The Mac version is called iStumbler, lowercase I. Okay, well, yeah, I have another one. This is from Cameron. He says, hi guys, I'm a big fan of your show. I had found it a few months ago, watched the episode with the Wi-Fi site in the woods. I think that was episode 1. And I just recently rediscovered your site in my bookmarks, and I'm going through and catching up on all your episodes. Just wanted to say, wow, your show looks good and is informative, and it's now on my regularly visited IPTV sites. Well, thanks, Cameron. Yeah, we've probably, we hope anyway, come a long way since episode 1, and hopefully things look a lot better now. Glad you're a viewer.
Episode 1 was a little bit rough, but it sure was a lot of fun getting started.
Boy, it was. It's a wonder that there was an episode 2 after that.
Yeah.
No, it was a lot of fun. And I tell you, we always have fun every month. And we learn a little something new. Tommy?
Yep, sure.
My turn?
Yeah.
I've got several here, like I said. I've got one here from Dave. It says, Tommy, keep up the good work. I always wondered why my camera would pause after taking long exposures. Now I assume it's doing the stuck pixel correction, although I don't see a way to turn this off on my camera. I also have an older camera that doesn't have this feature. Do you think it's possible to manually do the subtraction by taking a reference black picture along with the long exposure one? I assume the errors are due to small manufacturing defects in the CCD and form a fingerprint signature to my camera that shouldn't change over time. And he's exactly right for the reason. And I did a little digging and found a link to some software. Then I emailed it to him, but I haven't heard back whether he's tried it yet or not. Hopefully Dave will follow up with us and let us know how that went.
Boy, he was really doing some thinking. Good thinking.
And I've got another email here. You know, we get quite a few about the subject of Wi-Fi. I don't know why, but we do. Anyway, this one came from Sean, and he was asking, why don't we build a second antenna and see how far we can get with 2 of them and try doing some actual useful work with them. Well, we actually do have 2, and we've talked about this and just never been able to do it yet. But perhaps one day we will. He also asked about making an omnidirectional Wi-Fi antenna, and while I don't need one myself right now, and I don't know that Jim or Tommy do either, perhaps one day we'll try that. Well, Tommy, how does a Mississippi boy get along in Missouri in the middle of the winter?
Under 3 feet of snow.
Man, with a lot of coats on. Well, it wasn't quite 3 feet, but we got a big load of snow dumped on us, and it's more than I've seen in the whole time I lived in Mississippi, which was over 25 years.
Wow.
We got probably 12 or 16 inches of snow in some places. That's not drifts. That's out in the middle of the yard. It's pretty wild. It kind of put a damper on my original photo tip segment episode that I was going to do, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, and I decided to do it on cold weather tips for photography. Hi, I'm Tommy. Welcome to another episode of Photo Tips. Well, this isn't exactly what I planned on doing my episode this month, but seeing how I woke up and all of a sudden it decided it was going to be winter, it seemed like a great opportunity to do a segment on digital photography or photography in general and cold weather conditions. Let's go right on into it. The main thing that we need to worry about for your camera is the power source. I would recommend 2 batteries. If you saw last month's episode and you saw the star trail pictures that I did, it was about 20 degrees that night, which for a lot of places in the country that's pretty mild for coldness. Anyway, the one long exposure completely drained one of my batteries. Luckily I had another one. I keep it on the inside of my pocket, on the inside pocket next to my body, so body heat can keep it warm. The first battery wasn't completely dead. Once I warmed it back up, it came back up to a full charge. So it's important to have 2 batteries if you want to continue shooting in the cold weather, or at least take your battery out and warm it up often. But anyway, what I do is keep one next to my body, keep it warm, and swap it with the one that's been in the camera that gets cold when it starts to look like it's going down. And you can shoot for a pretty good while like that. One of the other problems is if it's snowy weather, you need to be careful about your exposure. If you remember back, or go back and view one of the previous episodes, I believe it may have been in the second one of Photo Tips, we discussed basic exposure and exposure compensation. For a refresher, exposure compensation is basically either letting in more light or decreasing the amount of light to adjust your exposure based on the reflectance of the scenery. If you remember, the camera's meter adjusts your scene to be 18% gray, so your snow is going to come out gray instead of white. To get white snow, you would let more light in. Average one third to 2/3 stop, depending on the rest of your scenery. We've got some trees in the background and so forth, so it wouldn't take quite as much. There's not a hard fast rule about that. 2/3 or so is a good starting point. Take your picture, check the histogram. That goes back to another episode of Photo Tips. We discussed checking your exposure using the histogram. Anyway, it's a lot of opportunities for some great photos when it's snowy like this. Let's take a look at a few samples that I took, and let's discuss the exposure compensation and the results from it. Okay, well, let's start off with the first sample. This one is just a straight exposure. The camera determined the exposure by itself and no compensation was used. As you can see, the snow is pretty gray. Let's move up to the next one where I increased the exposure by 1/3 of a stop. Yeah, that's much better, but still not quite there. Let's go 2/3 of a stop. And this to me is pretty well right on the money, because there's some shadows and brightness in there. You've still got texture in the white part of the snow. And I went ahead and took one full stop of exposure compensation added. And you can see there's a lot of detail in the trees, but the areas of the snow where the sun are hitting, there's no detail left. So that's a tad overexposed. The 2/3 exposure, additional exposure seemed to be right on the money to me. Okay, let's review our cold weather tips. Number one, be sure to check your exposure when you have a snowy scene. Use your histogram when you preview, and if your histogram is bunched up to the left or to the right, your exposure is definitely off. Carry plenty of batteries and keep them warm. Any batteries that you're not using at the time, keep them in a pocket near your body so your body heat will keep them warm, and you should have batteries last for quite a while. And one that we didn't mention earlier was, if you're coming in and out of the cold weather and your gear is cold, when you hit that warm room, condensation is going to form on your lens and your circuitry of your camera, and that's not good for your equipment. So one way to keep that from happening is to put your camera in a Ziploc bag and seal it up and bring it on in until it warms up to room temperature, and then it's safe to take it out without causing any problems. Well, as you can see, it makes a big difference when you adjust your exposure based on the scenery. The 2/3 is good. I had a lot of dark areas in that scene as well, so it's not the same as taking a picture of just a plain blanket of snow, which you normally wouldn't do that anyways. I tried to choose samples that were basically a real world condition. Anyway, there's no substitute for experience, so get out, take some pictures, have a good time. If you want to share some, maybe send them to me, tmartin at AmateurLogic.TV, and if we can, we'll try to put a few on, show some of them related to some of the photo tips that we've done in the past. If you can tell me which photo tip you picked up the tip from and used it in some of your photography, I'd like to share that with some of the other viewers. As always, if you have any comments or questions, tmartin at AmateurLogic.TV. I want to thank all the viewers that sent all the email in from the last episode. The long exposure photo tip episode was obviously a big hit, and we've got some more fun stuff like that coming up. I'd hope to do something different this month, but the snow came a little unexpected, and I hated to miss the opportunity on that. So anyway, get out, take some pictures, and have some fun. And anyway, let me know if you want to share some on the photo tips episode in an upcoming one. I'll see you next time.
Tommy, cool tips, man. I've heard of keeping your buns warm, but never your batteries.
Yeah. I really like that. I really like the tip about putting your camera in a bag to keep the condensation off of it. I would never guess that. And, you know, I used to be a cameraman at a TV station one time. So.
Yeah, you probably it probably wasn't that cold in there.
We didn't have Ziploc bags big enough for the cameras we used to have to carry.
Yeah.
I got an email from my friend Joe, who's a fellow ham, and he was talking about the episode that I did some soldering tips in. He wanted to pass along this link to everyone from soldering.net. There's some other excellent soldering tips on here that I'm sure everyone interested in soldering will take a look at. Even some surface mount soldering tips on there. I haven't looked at them all myself, but I actually plan to. Now, Jim, what goes up must come down, so we're talking about putting solder on a board here. You're talking about taking it off.
Right.
What do you got for us?
Well, it's a little segment that we're calling parts recovery, and it has to do with harvesting old or used parts out of some used or old gear. Welcome to let's see what crazy Jim can come up with next. This is a little something that I saw and actually heard on the QRP reflector Echo Node Link QRP-L, I think. Mike, KL7R of Solder Smoke, which is a good program, by the way. Go out there on www.soldersmoke.com and give it a listen. Either mentioned this or I definitely know it's attributable to him. I can't remember if I heard it directly. Might have heard it on the program, Solder Smoke. Anyhow, basically what it consists of, or what we're talking about doing here, is taking this propane torch that you see, firing it up, putting it to the back of this printed circuit board that has a lot of capacitors, resistors, inductors, what have you, and heating up the back really good, and then I think Mike said bang it against the workbench. We're going to try a little something different. Maybe we're going to, our thought there is we're going to bang it into this box, and maybe not sling anything into the camera lens that way or onto my legs. I'm wearing shorts today. You can't really tell. At least they're kind of stuck up under the table right now, so maybe they'll be okay. So George, I was telling him, and he said, better wear long pants. So, let's see if we can get something to hold this thing, and we'll have a go at it. Let's see if I can show you a close-up, and so you can kind of get a look at parts on there, how many we have on there now versus how many we'll have on there in a minute, maybe. I don't know. Okay. So here we go for all of the action. Heat things as evenly as possible over the back, and that's one reason we started off with a small board. Maybe if we add a little more flame. I don't mind telling you I'm a little bit nervous when it comes to the thunking against the box part. I don't think parts are going to go flying everywhere. Okay. I'm starting to hear cracking noises from the board. I'm thinking that's not a good thing. I'm thinking maybe I should be wearing some kind of protective eye shielding. Okay, here we go. Oh, starting to emit things from the board. I heard something come off. A transistor and a capacitor. I didn't hit it very hard. Let's see. I saw some solder go flying, but I didn't hear any parts come off. Ooh. Miniature flame up there. Not spectacular results. I would say that's about as good as we're going to do without catching things on fire. And we netted a transistor and a capacitor. Now, round 2, we're going to try a little something different. We're going to try to, because we didn't have very much success with that, we're going to try to do a little yanking and pulling. Okay. Can't leave that board too still for too long. I think maybe we better not do our yanking and pulling over the... Okay, I see some parts that are really loose. Oh yeah. Several more came out. No pulling yet, just... see this resistor down here is just shaking. Okay. We did better that time. So maybe we were expecting results too fast. Maybe have to heat a little. Wait a minute, heat a little more. Wait a minute. Let's see about this big capacitor. Yeah. Your temperature's about right for part recovery. Move quick and you can get a lot of things. Voltage regulators, power resistors. Yeah. Transistors. Okay, he really tried to get me. Came down right in the chair there. Relative to solder wick or solder suckers, I'm going to say at this point that this makes for much better part recovery. Much better. The banging against the disc or the box is effective, but I think more effective is a little tugging on the larger parts, larger pieces. Small pieces stay hot for quite a while, and so you can just really pull those right out of there. Whoa, okay. Try not to hit your propane torch. Thereby knocking it over. You know, hindsight is 20/20. It truly is, isn't it? I'm thinking now that maybe some kind of clamp device for the propane torch would have been a good idea. So in the space of what? Just less than 5 minutes, we pretty much cleared. Let's see if we can give you the close-up shot here of the what the board now looks like. You can compare that to the before shot. Here's what the back of it looks like, just in case you're interested, where the where the torch was being applied. So all in all, Mike, good tip. Oh yeah. After all that, I forgot to say the most important part up front. Boys and girls, don't try this at home.
Wow, Jim. I'm surprised. I swear, I hope your wife doesn't watch this episode, or you won't be allowed to use a torch anymore.
Yeah, she pretty much doesn't know I was using it that day. I probably wouldn't be allowed to do it, period. Just stop right there.
You got good insurance?
No, that's the problem. So yeah, she's got to keep me alive.
Well, after
try and keep it structured that way. Yeah.
You may want to check your house insurance too.
After I initially saw that segment you just did, I really had to go out and try it myself. So I had a little board here at the house, and sure enough, if you go out there and slap it just right, parts will fly everywhere.
Yeah, that's what you were telling me. Is that I think, or either we talked about this. Now I don't remember if you actually did it or not, but we looked at the heat embossing guns
Yeah.
that were on some of the websites. Cash Olson's website, he describes some surface mount soldering techniques using a heat gun. And didn't you try some part removal using one of those, or did we just speculate that that might be a good idea?
Well, I actually tried the little heat embossing gun. Here's the gun. And what I did is mounted up some surface mount components, some chip resistors and such, and while I was heating it with the hot air there, I noticed the color of the solder just started to tinge a little bit. I could barely tell that it had changed. And once that happened, I was able just to take an old acid brush and just wipe everything right off the board. Like nobody's business. However, now that was on surface mount components. On through-hole components, regular old soldering stuff, it wouldn't get it hot enough. The heat gun just would not heat it up enough. At least not in my experience.
It's interesting. A little difference there.
Yeah.
My next email's from Wiley. Hi there. I just finished watching episode 10, and I was interested in your segment on nighttime photography, but I found it hard to understand how it's possible to have my digital camera take exposures of 2 minutes or more. Can you please show the rig you're using for your photos and maybe go through how it would be possible to extend the exposure time of the photos? I'm aware of the CCD technology is possible to extend to 15 seconds or so, but I've not been able to do much more than that. I've also heard that software will allow you to layer short exposure photos to get, in effect, a long exposure photo. Maybe you could explore this too. One thing that's always taken my interest also is telescope photography. Maybe a series on how to interface your camera to a standard telescope. Anyway, I thought I'd send a few ideas for you to mull over. Those are some great ideas. The one about the telescope has always been very interesting to me. We could probably show how to couple it to the telescope, but to take long exposures of the stars and so forth, you usually need a tracking device for your telescope. I don't have that hardware. And as far as the software for layering the short exposures, that's a great idea also. I'll see what I can come up with on that. And I sent Wally back some information on using the cable release for the camera already. So
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah. Maybe one day you will have the tracking device, because we started playing with some robotic parts around here.
yeah, that'd be cool.
It's
Yeah,
been a
all
lot
of
of
us-
fun.
Yeah. We've recently got into playing with the basic stamp modules, and quite interesting.
They're a lot of fun. They're really inexpensive too.
Oh,
You
yeah,
can
real
get
cheap.
everything you need. The kit, put it together. It's very simple. I put mine together, and I'm not nearly as experienced as someone like George is with a soldering iron and all. But I think I put mine together in maybe a couple of hours tops.
Yeah.
And,
Real neat.
so-
What you can do with them.
Yeah, about $30. We're all already doing things like turning DC servo motors, turning a pod or a potentiometer, and having the DC servo motor track your turning of that.
So have you done that experiment yet, Jim?
No, but I know that you have.
You'll enjoy it when you get to it.
Well, I'm looking forward to putting mine together. It's still in the box.
I'm
Yeah.
still making mine flash the LEDs. And right now I have it flashing the LED, and it's sending Morse code. I've written the basic program to send my call sign in Morse via the LED. So
You put
I
that
can
up on
hold
your
it out
tower?
I can hold it out the window or climb my tower at night and hold it up, and it can be seen for houses and houses away.
Wow.
Like 3.
Well, I know
Unfortunately,
that
not any of my neighbors know CW, so they just think I'm crazy.
As another first, I thought I would go for our first shortest segment ever this month. Actually, I had hoped this would fill out a little more time, it didn't. There's just not a lot you can say about it. Everybody remembers the Dixie Cup and the Strings. So
Oh yeah.
this takes it into the electronic age. Sometimes you just need a cheap communications method. And just like two Dixie Cups and a string, you can do the same thing with electricity. And you've probably already got everything you need to do this with. All you need is 2 cheap telephones, a 9-volt battery, some connectors and wire. Let's take a look at how you put this together. Looking at the diagram, all we do is simply connect the 2 telephones and the 9-volt battery in series, and we've got instant communications. This type of communications project is handy for quick communications to the basement, perhaps upstairs, another room, even another nearby located building. As a matter of fact, you could probably go a few miles with the wire. It's also handy for entertaining the kids. Just connect up your 2 telephones and your battery and you're ready to go. I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong number.
All right, George. Man, that's a cool and inexpensive intercom trick. I never knew that. I never knew you could do that. Tommy, what do you think about that?
I think that's pretty cool. I had a friend of mine, Jack. We tried to do that a long time ago. Never did find the schematics for it or figure out how to hook it up. But I know now, although it's a little bit late for the project I had in mind, it's pretty cool to know.
You know, if we could stretch a telephone line between you in Missouri and us down here, it might take a little bit more than a 9-volt battery, but I think it would work. What do you think, George?
Well, yeah, you're right. It might take a little more than 9 volts. It might take 2 of them.
Yeah.
You know, you can also do that same exact trick, and instead of using 2 telephones, just use 2 little speakers, and it'll work.
Is that right?
Sure will.
The speaker acts as both a microphone and a speaker.
Yeah, it does. So it's not great, but it does work.
Really?
Yeah, sure does.
That's interesting.
Well, part of my family is going to be out of the country this year, so we had a little early Christmas celebration. A few of us did back around Thanksgiving. I got a real neat little device here. I want to show you this little Sony Microvolt Tiny. It's a little USB memory key I got. It comes in a little holster here. Check that out. 256 megabytes.
Oh man!
I haven't got around to trying it out yet, but I'll tell you why the instructions scared me just a little bit.
Yeah.
I didn't know. When I get time, I'm going to read them.
Does that come in 47 different languages?
I think so.
Make this thing as massively popular as possible.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a Sony. No baloney. Is that what they used to say?
Oh, used to is right, yeah. Oh, they still make pretty good gear.
Jim, what are our listeners wanting to know?
Well, Joe, our buddy, sent us in an email and said, hey guys, thanks for mentioning my email and video contribution on your show. It made my day. Joe, glad to do it. You just keep sending in those emails. Plus, he's also telling us about a simulated RF environment that's online. It's called www.qsonet.com, and that's spelled QSONET.com. It's a voice over IP service with a ham radio dashboard. It looks like you're looking at a ham radio. When you get to the site, you'll see. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of uses. Can be a good option for hams who are traveling without their radio, or if they're handicapped or restricted from RF for some reason. I went out and checked out the site. It really looks amazingly good.
All right, I have one more email here from John. This is a pretty long one, so I'm going to try to paraphrase it just a little bit. But it says, wow, you guys have really nailed it. Thanks for taking time and putting together such a fantastic video presentation. I really can't believe there's a show out there that covers my 3 most favorite passions. Ham radio. I've been a ham for a little longer than a year and just recently upgraded to general. Photography. I'm an analog fan, having my own black and white darkroom since I was in high school. And of course, electronics. I'm formally trained EET. My current profession is systems administrator. He said, anyway, if you're trying to think of ideas for our upcoming episodes, how about for ham radio, APRS or packet? APRS combined with mapping imagery was how I kept an eye on VHF propagation this past summer. That sounds like a pretty interesting topic.
Yeah.
For photography, he says how one can successfully use the burn and dodge tool in Photoshop, and that's actually an excellent idea. I absolutely will be doing that one in the near future. And oh yes, last question, Jimmy, what did you ever use the high voltage capacitors for? Do you have a particular antenna design that called for one or more of those?
Yeah, Jim.
And the answer is yes. The answer is yes, I did have an antenna design that called for one of those, and that is what I'm using it for, and you may see that in an upcoming episode.
I have one last email that I'm going to read this time. This one comes from our friend Frank in Puerto Rico. He says, hello, my name's Frank. I just recently bumped into your website. So far, I've been enjoying the programs you guys have recorded. He says, I'm a big fan of building antennas and reading antenna theory. I'm not too experienced in this area yet, but I'm working on it. Anyway, his basic question was, he had watched the Cantenna episode, and he wanted to know if he could make a 2-meter cantenna out of a 5-gallon bucket. And
That's interesting.
You know, I never actually did any calculations myself. I think it would probably be more along the lines of a 55-gallon drum or bigger to do a 2-meter cantenna. What do you think, Jim?
I think that's probably pretty close. Because, well, let's see. Would that even do it?
Probably it's not big enough, no.
Because I heard about this on another show. I believe it was Mike KL7R talking about a guy that was jamming radar guns with a homemade X-band transmitter, and it was a 35-gallon drum with a feed horn.
Wow.
So that's and that frequency is way up there. So yeah, 2 meters would be like the size of a house.
Yeah,
I guess you could cut the end out of a tanker truck.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there you go. If you could find an old concrete truck so you could aim it and adjust your asthma polarity.
Yeah. That's an interesting thought, though.
Yeah.
It would be pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
If it would work, it'd be pretty awesome.
Johnny, Jimmy, I know you remember our buddy Johnny we used to work with back when we were all into FMDX and back in the 70s. It was his thought that you could take an FM antenna, which is about the same thing as a TV antenna, and put it in a lead box to block out signals on the back of it. There's your early cantenna design right there.
Bingo.
Yeah, now it would take quite a push-up pole to handle a lead box big enough for that. But
Yeah, that's right. Didn't know about wire mesh.
Yeah.
Well, George, that seems to be all the material we have for this time. Is that right?
Well, yeah, I'm ashamed to say that's all I brought this time was a whole minute and 10 seconds.
Well, perhaps a tease of what's to come in the next episode is in order then. For me, I'm planning on looking at a couple of free network tools that everyone already has installed on their computer from the factory.
Cool.
And no matter what OS you're running either, so everyone can tune in for that. Tommy, you got any photo tip teases?
Well,
Tommy and I are going to be non-committal.
Yeah, I think I'm going to hold back and let mine be a secret because I have an idea of what I'm going to do, but there's a chance it might not happen, so I'm going to hold back. But it should be pretty interesting if it all pans out.
Well, I've been shooting on a couple other projects, but really nothing finished close enough yet that I'm going to say it'll be ready for next month. But I'll try to have something a little bit longer next time. That's it for episode 11. We appreciate everybody joining us today. Tell all your buddies to join us here next time, and keep those emails coming.
Adios.
And we'll see you next month.
Hasta la vista. Well, Tommy,
Yeah.
what other photo things are people wanting to know about?
I'm probably fixing to have Andy Rush, and my wife just walked in from the outside, and she don't know I'm taping, so.
Well, Tommy, what does your wife think about all of this?